and welcome to the Canadian Condominium Institute podcast, presented by the Grand River Chapter. I'm your host, Michelle Dyer, and twice a month, we speak with people from across the condominium industry in Southern Ontario, from condo residents to managers, lawyers, engineers, contractors, and we aim to provide the community with tips, insights, and resources to better navigate your condominium life. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe to us, and if you're not a member, make sure to visit our website at cci-grc.ca and register today. Thanks a lot to RLB LLP for this awesome podcast studio. So today we're going to talk about how to hire a landscaper. What do you look for in a landscaper? What do you want in a snow removal company? And we're also going to take a look at the contractor side. What does a contractor want in a client? What expectations do all of those members have? And we're going to dive into it right now with my guests, Randy and Mike. Randy, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
My name is Randy Rego. I am from Wilson Blanchard Management. I am a condominium manager and I'm actually coming up to my 10-year anniversary with WB.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
You're still sane, huh?
I am.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you for that, yes.
Excellent. Mike.
My name's Mike Seager. I'm from Superb Property Maintenance. We're a Guelph-based property maintenance company. We provide services to the condominium market. We do everything from cutting grass to power sweeping to pressure washing.
And in full disclosure, Mike's my boss. Everybody should know that. So I'll be nicer today.
Valid.
Not. I won't put him under the hot seat. Sure I won't. Yeah. All right. So let's start with property managers. Randy, when a board says to you, we're tired of our landscaper, we're tired of our snow removal guy, we need somebody else. We want to tender out for a new contractor. What does the property manager, we're not going to talk about the board yet, sure. What does the property manager look for when trying to tender out a contract?
Well, I think it's important even before you start to tender it out, you, as a property manager, I want to know what those issues are, what the board's issues are.
With the previous landscaper.
Well, yeah. Can we correct? Are there issues that we can correct? Are they minor details? If it's just the service is bad, then of course. But I think it's important to evaluate what the issues are, because sometimes you don't need to make a change. You just need to have everyone get around a table and discuss what those issues are, and see what the response is from that contractor, and see if there's an opportunity to fix those issues. But going to tender, to talk about that, I think it's very important to know clearly what the specifications are, what you're looking for, what the board's looking for, what the expectations are for sure. Are you wanting someone to come in and just cut grass and remove snow? Is there gardening to do? Is there edging to do? So I think it's very important to put those expectations or specifications in an RFQ. So when you do go out to tender, everyone's quoting on the same thing for sure.
So isn't the expectations or specifications defined in your declaration, bylaws, rules? Don't they usually have what needs to be done, what the condominium is responsible for in those documents?
Not always.
Okay.
Not always. The declaration could be clear on the condominium. In part of your fees, condominium is responsible for all landscaping and snow removal.
Yeah, that's pretty general, right?
That's pretty general, right?
Yeah.
And then do you want to add some lawn care as far as fertilizing and aeration and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of the times we see, sorry to cut you off,
that's okay.
How the contractor does their work, what mowers they use, what equipment they use, what time they show up, where you are in their schedule in the week. There could be a lot of little things that wouldn't be defined in your declaration that a board may take issue with.
Right.
Yeah, and that could be part of what they determine to be bad service.
Yes.
Like you've got a lot of the condominiums that are serviced by contractors, and Mike, you can attest to this. We have multiple properties. There's multiple properties that we are taking care of. So I hate to tell everybody, boards of directors, but someone's going to be first and someone's going to be last, and then everybody else is in between, and that's the way it works.
Well, part of qualifying a new contractor, one of my questions is, where are they in the list, or do you change it up every week? So they're not always last and they're not always first.
That's
right?
extremely important in the wintertime.
Yes.
Yes.
Especially in the winter.
Summertime,
for sure.
everybody
Yes.
wants to be Friday, but they're willing to take Wednesday or Tuesday. But in the wintertime, you definitely want to know where you fall in that priority.
And also with winter, does the contractor have the right equipment for that property? You know, do you need to, you know, blow snow, or, you know,
Move it every time it snows,
right.
driveways, porches.
So that's very, very important.
Yeah, we're
for
going to
sure.
talk about snow a little bit more in depth a little bit
absolutely.
later.
Sure.
Define, you said something about bad service. So as a property manager, define bad service.
Not showing up when they say they're supposed to show up. Not attending to all the details in the contract. Again, going back to the specifications, if weeding's in there, if they're not weeding on a, whatever it is, a weekly or bi-weekly basis, or sometimes it could be once a month, are they not edging? Are they not maintaining those gardens? So, you know, following the contract to a T.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Mike,
Response as well.
Communication is huge.
Yeah, response time too. And if there is an issue, is the contractor not responding? Like
Will they work with you? Do they have solutions in place
Right.
to help mitigate some of this stuff for the property?
And sometimes things get innocently missed, and you know, you pointed out, no, it's true. Everyone's
No,
human,
I
right?
know. Mike and I,
Things-
we just had a conversation this morning about a garden bed that was missed with weeds,
True.
and people
So
are
you know, you
upset.
bring it to the contractor's attention, and they respond saying, "Yes, our bad. We'll get out there on X day or whatever. Or can we get this when we're there next week?"
Yeah.
And it gets corrected. But if it keeps getting neglected, then for sure that's an issue.
Got it. All right, over to the contractor side. Mike, expectations from the contractor's point of view of a site. What do you look for in a potential client and or potential site? Usually Michelle's approval. Kidding.
Had to throw that in there.
Our business is geographically based.
Right.
So landscaping, you could do quality work two cities over.
Right.
Snow, not so much. So you have to be focused on the core areas that you want to work in. The ideal client is somebody that, you know, communicates through the property manager or through their boards, you know, doesn't come out asking for, you know, unit owners coming out looking for little extras and trying to, you know, throw the crew off of the tasks that they should be completing. You know, there's not really an expectation on our end other than, you know, we'll do the job as we say we will, as to the specs of the contract, and you'll pay us for it.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it, right?
I'm going to interject just on this because I think communication, I think your point on communication and your point on communication, Randy, is huge. If a client is not pleased with something that's occurred, like we missed the weeding of that one bed, then I don't think we need to take it from 0 to 100 and start threatening. Just call us, and
sure.
like you said, we'll you know what, we'll take it. We'll take care of it next week. We'll take care of it tomorrow. Whatever.
And I think a lot of it can be quantified too, right? Like in specific to that issue this morning, you know, the rest of the site looked fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're clearly moving our way around. You know, maybe something got out of hand. Thank you for the reminder. You know, we'll get it on the next visit, or if it's that, you know, bad enough, we'll send out another crew to do that. But it's whether or not you answer the phone, you propose a solution, and you follow through on that solution, right?
Right. So now, Randy, you've compared apples to apples, oranges to oranges. You've got 3 quotes in front of you. You're sitting down in front of the board. What do you look for next?
Working with my boards, you know, 3 competitive quotes come forward. My recommendation to the board is, let's pick the top 2, interview, get references, and just vet them from there.
Why references?
I think it's important. I think it's important when you're going through that process that the board gets references from other contractors' clients.
Yep.
That obviously that they're satisfied, or they're responsive. The communication's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And from your perspective, Randy, you're the property manager. You've dealt with these companies, so you generally know. But it's, letting the board make their own decision based on the information that's put in front of them. And as a property manager, that's what your job is, right? I think the local references to those sites is what we're hearing a lot. We want to know, what places do you look after around our location? And that goes back to that geographical service areas.
Yeah, you provide a few addresses, and the board, takes a drive and takes a look at those properties and see how they're maintained.
I know on the contractor end, sometimes we get phone calls because of that. Somebody drove by a property, saw how great it looked, and then found out we or one of our competitors, let's be real, manages that site or maintains that site, and that's how we get the reference, right? It's just having it look. But yeah, it works both ways, right? Or one board, we took over a property and a board member saw it and then told a friend, and a friend came and looked. Well, now we got the friend's site too because they were looking for somebody. So word of mouth and what you show is
the best advertising. Absolutely.
No kidding.
And the condo business is, although it's booming, it's a very small business.
That's exactly.
Everybody knows everybody.
It's a small network for sure.
That's exactly it. So let's talk a little bit about boards and expectations with boards of directors. So as a maintenance company, we deal with property managers all the time, yes, but we also deal with boards quite often. We meet with them on site with the property manager. Some don't have property managers because they are in that self-managed group. And if you want to know about self-managed condos, you can look back at the podcast because we do talk about that in one of the other previous episodes. So have a look on the website to check that out. So now we're all going to get together. We're going to meet. What do the board's expectations look like? What do they want?
Well, expectations, I think we need to first start off with what's the budget. Okay. So if what's that saying? If you have that champagne taste but on a beer budget. Sorry for the cliche, but seriously, if you want Cadillac service, you got to pay for it. Absolutely, 100%.
And you got to let them know that that's what we want.
Yeah.
Don't just give us some specs and then go, but this is what we meant.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like we've often said, I can stand outside. I can have a crew standing outside your front door holding shovels, making sure not an ounce of snow touches your front porch or your front driveway or your front walkway. But how much do you want to pay for it?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So I think setting up the expectation budget-wise is important. Then from there, the boards are not so shocked when those quotes come in or proposals come in from those vendors, right?
Yeah.
So once you've set that, then and everyone's on the same page, then again going to tender and qualifying, and I think it's important to interview those contractors on a face-to-face at a board, whether it's virtual or at a board meeting in person, so the board can get a sense and get a feel of that contractor.
I'm a big fan of the meeting on site.
Yeah.
Walking the site.
Because then you can find out what the real issues are.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, finding out what the issues are. Well, there's no better way than doing it in the middle of July or August and actually seeing it for yourself.
Yeah. And watching a board member walk around a site and go, this bothers me. I wish this was like this.
Right.
Then as a contractor, you get a good insight. And
we can fix that, or we can't.
Or you know what? You're looking at some grading issues here, or whatever. It's going to cost you X amount, or whatever. Yeah. So you kind of get that specification, and you get that one-on-one with them, and especially if they're coming off, with a bad taste in their mouth of another contractor.
Yes.
Let's find out why, and that says a lot about a board, right? You both know this. It says a lot about a board when they come off a contractor that they're not pleased with. Okay, so what weren't they pleased with? Well, could it be that they want Cadillac service for beer price or Walmart pricing, or is it because they really truly pay for this Cadillac service and weren't getting it? Because that happens sometimes too. So I think meeting on site is always your best bet. Do you do that with boards? Do you meet with potential contractors on site?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You try to make that. I think it's important to do that. I had a train of thought and I completely forgot it. Back to those specifications. If boards are wanting, back to the budgeting, if boards are wanting, say, the turf, aeration,
weed
fertilizing,
control.
weed control. and it's not in their budget every year, maybe that's something that can be separated from the actual contract and as an added service. And maybe the board can pick and choose stuff that they can budget for on their operating side year to year, or every other year, or every 3 years, whatever it may be, just so it's easier on their budget. But some, they want the full gamut every year, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, which a lot of the times ends up resulting in overspending, because you don't need those 3 inches of mulch every year.
No.
You don't need that top dressing every year.
True.
You know, there's lots of times I'll say to a board, look, like, price that as an extra every year, because, you know, then you're not paying for it every year. And we get, you know, condos where we go in, we do a cleanup because of bad contractor before. Well, they don't need to pay for that every year. You price that as an extra once, and then they're done. Right?
And also, if a contractor is taking on a site that's not in great shape, back to the expectations, the board needs to understand that it's going to take 2-3 years to get it to where
they want it.
They're envisioning. Right? It's not going to happen overnight, for sure.
No, and they need, and I'm a big believer in weed control. I think that I'm one of these people that's like, look at, you can, I do, because especially in Guelph, there's a lot of open areas where there's a lot of the watershed, and there's a lot of weeds blowing around and things. But if you don't do it, you can do it this year and not do it next year. Guess what's going to happen? By the end of next year, you get that. For me, every year.
It's like a dog chasing its tail.
That's right.
You're constantly you're dealing with the problem, and then you're letting it run out of control, and then you're trying to deal with it again.
Right. And so then you're back to the 2 years, and you're going on and on. I think once
people aren't happy in the meantime.
That's right. Well, and then the board's hearing from owners at AGMs screaming and yelling because this isn't taken
The other thing
care
I think we all forgot is, does the site have irrigation, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Right, because if you get into a dry summer,
I'm gonna
all the
interrupt
work
you.
that you've put in, right?
I'm going to interrupt you and say, builders, anybody building a darn condo, put the darn irrigation in. For the love of all that is holy. It is a pain in the ass to try and figure out how you're going to water new sod, new seed, even the aeration coming in, and how you're going to help the fertilizer maintain itself. Like, without irrigation, without that water, you're counting on the rain to do it. Have anybody seen what's happening in the global world right now, where everything's drying out? Yeah, thanks. Like, put the damn irrigation systems in. Drives me bonkers every time.
You heard it here.
It sounds like somebody had a phone call this morning about some dry paint.
No, there's nothing more irritating than going to this gorgeous site and seeing these beautiful new buildings with all this great technology and all this great stuff all around it, with some, you know, amenities that the owners are really going to enjoy. But guess what? That beautiful grass park that you have there is about to look like crap. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. We can put all the seed we want on it. We can do all the weed control we want. We can redo the sod. You're only going to end up filling it with friggin' river rock because it's going to look like shit. And that's the end of it. Like, get that irrigation in. That's why. It just drives me bonkers.
That is the end of that.
On that note,
Sorry, I brought that up.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry, I brought that up.
On that note, let's go to winter.
Yes.
Did we cover everything this summer?
You think I'm passionate about irrigation? Talk to me about insurance.
Well, I think, again,
Go ahead.
you know, going into winter, when there are issues, let's talk about them at the time. Let's not talk about summer and winter and vice versa, right?
Everybody's memory is so short.
Right.
Right?
So,
This is what happened last fall. Well, are you sure it wasn't January? Well, it might have been, and you know.
And sometimes things do get missed, but I'm just saying, I think it's very important
Sorry, Randy. Now you struck a chord with me. If the contractor doesn't know about it, they can't fix it.
No, exactly.
And that's the biggest issue, right?
Yeah.
And especially with snow, there's liability involved. Like, we really want to fix that issue before it becomes a problem.
I'm just on the snow thing. I'm going to say to builders, snow area is not a boulevard.
The city.
So snow area, not a little boulevard, not a square 10 by 10 spot. Can't put snow there, just so you know.
Well, again, back to when you're going, we're talking about snow now. When you are going for quotes, you know, I think, or when you're trying to pick a contractor, I think it's important to talk about snow staging areas.
Yep. Before the contractor even supplies a quote.
Sure.
Yeah, you need to talk about that.
You need to know where that snow's going.
And if you've got very little snow staging areas, then I think the conversation needs to be had where snow haulage.
Yeah, what are the resources?
Right. And what are the costs going to be there?
Yep.
Not like we're in the middle of January and you've got a ton of snow that needs to be removed, and here's a quote for $4,000 because we need to, right? So those conversations all need to be talked about in advance.
Right.
So that, everyone is aware and not surprised.
And fair enough, but I think, and Mike can attest to this, or Mike can speak more on this, when snow removal hits, when it comes time where we have to haul it out of there, it is only an estimate because we don't know if we're
dealing with traffic.
Did we just get like this year, 15 centimeters, 25 centimeters, 10 centimeters, bang bang every Friday, bang bang bang. Well, there was already 15 centimeters to begin with before we got all of that. So now we're into second week, we're getting 25 centimeters, and people are panicking because they thought, oh, well, this is all going to melt. We're not going to get any more snow. Now we have to haul it out. Well, now you're in desperate mode. So we're not the only ones in desperate mode. Now we're trying to find loaders and trucks and staff who've been working for 24 hours straight to try and get it.
Honestly, it's the staff and the dump site
and the dump site locations.
Are the two big ones, right? You're trying, we also have to operate within hours of service for our guys.
That's right.
You can't keep somebody out there 16, 18 hours and expect them to jump in a loader and go and haul snow or move snow. So we're constantly juggling resources. It becomes very, very difficult to haul snow after every single event.
Yeah.
So, and there's more and more condos that have nowhere to put snow. Correct. And then there's, I then have to reach out to a third-party company because all my loader operators and truck drivers are all zonked and can't work anymore. Yep. Now I'm bringing in Lockharts at a different rate or whoever. The cost can get high quickly.
And if you're not hauling, can snow be relocated to a different part on the site? Do they have areas for that, right? Yeah. But again, as a property manager, I think it's important that we have those conversations with our boards to prepare that in the budget. It needs to be in the budget.
And that's why I use the word resources, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody's perfect. You promise the world in November, but can you deliver it in the middle of January?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the resources, there's no way you're going to be able to deliver it.
Yeah. The other concern.
But everyone also needs to be patient.
Yes.
Take a deep breath
too.
There
Take a deep breath. Yes. I understand everybody wants their site cleaned and stuff, but
can you really get out of your driveway? Yeah. Can you really get out of your front step?
Yeah. Can you really
use your garage door?
So let me ask you this question. So, as a PM, my expectation is that on a heavy snowfall, that the contractor comes in, clears the roadways, and then if driveways are part of that contract, then the contractor will come back to clear those out. So that's pretty standard expectation.
Yeah, so we have the way, because we do many driveway sites, but then there's, all those, every third driveway site, everybody parks in their garages. So those are the ones we start at 5 o'clock in the morning with the driveways. And then by the time they're done those 2 or 3 sites, they're now moving on to those ones that they can't park in their garages. And they're going back at between 8 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the plows are coming in behind them to tidy everything up, followed by salters. It's like an assembly line, only it's happening on your property and not in a factory. Right. But yeah, that's definitely the way we do things.
Yeah. And people have to realize that as the 25 centimeters are pouring down, we're out there, but we're not necessarily plowing at 2 centimeters, because if we do, by the time we get back to you, you're going to have another 18 sitting there, and it's harder then to plow that. People have to realize there's a method to the madness, and Mike's really good at the juggling it all. And we all sit down and we in the office and we're plotting and planning. Okay, here we go. Major snowstorm coming. What are we doing? We inform our clients, as most companies do, letting them know this is our plan. But there's always that one site. When are you getting here? When are you getting here? The roads were closed. We weren't allowed to move the trucks. Right. That's where the patience has to. Well, Absolutely. I have to go to work. Okay, I get it, but you're not going.
Because you're not going to make it out on the city street.
Right.
That's an extreme case too, right?
Yeah,
Right?
It is.
yeah,
It is.
100% it is.
For
And but it
sure.
can happen at any time too, right? Where you know, the storms that Michelle's referring to are the last ones in March.
Yeah.
And it's fresh in your mind. 35 centimeters. That's the extreme,
Yeah.
right?
And we had freezing rain on top of
Yeah,
that. too.
or below it, and that makes it even
Below it.
worse because
Oh,
now
it's
you
worse.
can't.
Below is
I
worse.
can't remember whether it came or but below is even worse because now we can't get traction.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're using some pretty big equipment to plow these places, but in a regular 10 centimeter, 15 centimeter dry snow, like we're done in like 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
35 centimeters, what did it take? 18 hours,
Yeah,
19
it
hours?
took a
Like
while.
that's
Yeah.
the difference. And people don't, you know, and that was even with putting additional resources out there.
Yeah.
You know, that not every company has.
Yeah.
Do you guys send out that communication to all of the managers that you're
Always.
with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a
Before
regular.
a big snowfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, letting them know, you know,
Yeah,
bring their
even-
That's
patients.
important, right?
Even a little snowfall, I'll send something out just to let them know. We know it's there. You know,
Especially over the weekend.
yeah. You don't have to. You know, don't panic. The crews are there. During that last big one, that my boss was in Jamaica.
She did.
I was
give you a comment.
I was cheering you on from the airport.
And he didn't take his phone. I'm not even going to lie to you.
I
Good
predicted
for
that
him.
snowstorm 4 weeks before it happened.
Because
As
you
soon
booked
as
your
I
flight.
put my credit card number into the computer, I went, it's going to snow that day.
We're like, no, it's not going to snow that late in March. And you know, my counterpart and I,
did.
it was. But we saw a lot of people struggling, and not just from a condo point of view, but even just the city streets. Like it was a struggle for
Yep.
a lot of us. So people's patience got very thin very quickly. But those emails we sent, I think,
Oh, help. Huge.
it stopped it. Like, so the PMs were able, just so you know, and this is like, we're promoting our business now, but really and truly, I write them in a property, so a property manager can literally forward it to the board. They can literally copy and paste it and post it to the website, with the exception of our after hours number, which we don't want all the owners to have.
sure, yeah.
So it's always a separate paragraph that the PMs cut out and then send it all to the owners. And for the property managers, and anybody listening that's a contractor, if I'm going to give you any advice, contractor to contractor, do this, because the boards then, I'm telling you, the temperament of the
Yes.
owners comes right down.
Yeah.
As soon as I start to see, okay, there's the same concern, and I'm getting 3 and 4 emails, I'm like, okay, no. And I start to design and draft that letter and get it out there so the PMs can get it
Those
out
are
to the
more like
owners.
the mid-storms, too, that
Yeah.
you've done in the past.
Yeah.
But, you know, where she's referring to is the pre-storm.
Yeah.
Michelle's communicating throughout the entire storm a lot of times,
Yeah.
unless it's a little storm. I mean,
Yeah,
then
no.
nobody's even wondering where you are because they're already done.
Yeah, it's the big one, that 35 centimeter. I was communicating, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many emails I sent out. I think 3 or 4 throughout that whole thing, letting people know what we were doing, where we were
And it
at.
was a Saturday.
And it was a Saturday, yeah. It was a Saturday, yeah. Thanks, Mike. It was a
was.
Saturday.
It was a Saturday.
Friday night into Saturday. And then that's where I remind everybody to pack their patience, like you mentioned, because, yep, we got those sidewalks done. Nope. That one sidewalk wasn't done because it's not a normal sidewalk. We cleared out your roadway. That's the step.
Priorities.
Yeah, we have the priorities like you had mentioned. It's the assembly line, right?
Yep.
Okay, we got that, and people screaming and yelling because the sidewalk near whatever wasn't cleared. It's like, hey, whoa, we're not there yet.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
where are you going? You can't go anywhere.
Right.
Where are you walking?
Yeah.
Have you seen it outside? Why? Who's gonna walk that sidewalk right now? Right? So everybody needs to.
It was on the news this morning. Please stay home.
Yeah,
Don't leave.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The special weather
The
statements.
special
Again, those are
weather
extreme
statements, right?
cases.
And I get it. There was a nurse and she had to get to work, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you better tell them you're going to be a little late, because no matter what you do, you're not going anywhere, right? Or maybe you stay in the hospital the night before. Maybe that's your option.
Your place could be perfect, and then, like, if the city's not caught up, you're
Then
not
you're
getting
not getting
out on
out.
the city streets anyway.
That's right. Exactly.
How about winter damage?
I'd love to get out in front of it. I would much rather get out in front of it and fix it before it becomes an issue than deal with it in June when I can.
Right.
We do soil and seed at all of our sites. We do
Yeah.
all the sod repairs on our litter pickups in the early April. Curb repairs, all that. I want it all done.
Yeah.
like right away, included in the contracts. I don't know how many
that was my
times.
next question.
I've
Perfect.
lost sites in the past. I've been doing this for 22 years. I've lost sites in the past where you didn't fix their sod damage. You went in July or June. By the time it became an issue, it was June. You went in, you fixed it. Now it's all dead sod.
And
now
no irrigation, so how the hell's it going to grow?
Right.
And then, so you're better. We go out early April. It's one of the first jobs our crews do, is the soil and seed. If the piles are
cleanup, right?
Yeah.
100%. And sometimes even before our spring cleanups, because we want to get results from that. We want to see it start growing beginning of May. And if you don't get it the first couple weeks of April, I mean, this year's a perfect example. It didn't rain, other than yesterday, it hasn't rained for 6 weeks.
And it's
7
been
weeks.
crazy.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Randy. So from a snow removal perspective, do you communicate to your, even from a landscaping perspective, as a property manager, does your boards communicate to the owners what the expectations of the contract is? Do you show them your contract?
I cannot speak on. I mean, I have not shared contract. Maybe the specifications.
Right.
We've put in a notice or a newsletter to owners just so they're aware of what the specifications are, what the expectations are.
Yeah.
For that given contract or that vendor.
Right.
Especially when there's a new contractor on site, a new landscaper. We, you send out a news blast or whatever saying, hey, contractor XYZ is starting, new contractor.
Yep.
These are not the expectations, but this is what they're responsible for. So yeah, I think it's important to put that out there to owners for sure.
I'm specifically talking, just let's go back to landscaping for a second, just because we're dealing with this situation on an ongoing basis where a backyard of a townhouse complex doesn't get cut. It doesn't get cut because there's dog dew. You got to clean up. We can't cut around dog poop. So I'm just saying, do the owners know that? Is the communication there that they have to do that?
I just did that. I've done it twice for one site already. Sent out a news blast, like a notice saying,
Yep.
please pick up after your pets.
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah, make sure areas are clean for when the contractor. This is the day the contractors comes in. And I've also sent out a notice saying that if this continues to happen, the contractor will be picking it up, but we'll be charging that back
To the owner,
to
yeah.
the owner as a pickup.
Yeah. So what about snow removal? When you have multiple parking lots, like multiple parking spaces in one lot. As a snow removal company, we want to clean all that out. So are your owners responsive? Do they understand that when we send out a notice to say, or when you send out a notice saying move your car, that they need to move their car so we can clean out the snow? Because that's probably one of the biggest complaints. You didn't shovel around my car. Well, we don't shovel around your car.
And that's part of you're asking
About
sending
the
that out. The
expectations, yeah.
expectation, right? So yeah, there are snow days meaning the contractors, we schedule a date
Yep.
for the whole parking lot to be cleared out, so the contractor can have the opportunity to come in and clean things thoroughly. Of course, there's always one or two, hopefully not, that do not get moved.
You work around it. Yeah.
You work around
Yeah.
it. But yeah, those days are important, especially if you get a lot of snow.
Yes.
It's important to do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And owners are cooperative most part.
For the most part, yeah.
Owners, move your cars.
Yeah, because they want their areas cleaned, right?
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So
I would be remiss if we didn't finish off with talking a little bit about insurance. And I know this gets everybody's, back up, including my own. But we're seeing more and more where the insurance costs for snow removal companies are just crazily increasing. And,
Buildings too.
And sorry,
Buildings too.
and
Like property owners too.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys seen a spike in insurance
Mm-hmm.
costs
And
for buildings.
yeah.
that's a different podcast, though.
That, actually,
totally.
you know what? I was just thinking the same thing. I paused for a minute because I'm like, hey, where do I want to go with this? Because we could go down a really big
Yes,
rabbit hole.
right.
And I'm thinking that would be another. But I would be remiss because when you're hiring a landscaper and hiring a new contractor, insurance is important, WSIB is important, and you need to ask for those documentations. So you need to make sure that your contractors, no matter what contractor it is, whether it's landscaping, roofing, what has that insurance, that viable
how much
insurance,
coverage they have
and
and
how much
stuff.
coverage they
Right.
have, et cetera.
Right.
There is a change coming, we hope. in the landscaping snow removal business. And Mike, maybe you can just touch just a little bit. I know it's a big rabbit hole and we can go down it and we can be there forever, but why don't we touch a little bit about what you've been involved in and what's been going on with the insurance in snow removal?
So, like, I personally haven't really been involved in it, but the Snow and Ice Management Group that belongs to, the Snow and Ice Management Committee at Landscape Ontario has hired some consultants to start lobbying the government to see some change. They're looking at doing accreditation and basically creating an act to regulate our industry so that if you're an accredited contractor and you pass a certain threshold of education, training, all these little things that need to be done and to keep you in good standing, you will follow a different set of rules when it comes to snow and ice than your
counterparts
or competitors would if they're not participating in the same program. It's much the same as they're targeting it, or they're going at it from the angle much the same as what the elevator business did. I'm sure you guys are well aware of that. And it seems to be working. So they're
sound effects. We need a round of applause right now. Seriously, no, that is so important because they're. I mean, in my 10 years, I've seen a lot more claims, even with my colleagues, come through, and it's unfortunate because it is driving premiums up.
And it's driving the cost of the contracts up substantially.
Absolutely, and I know contractors that have just closed their doors because they can't keep up
with the insurance.
12% of our revenue.
Right.
12% of our revenue goes to insurance.
I mean, I think it's got to be a pretty obvious case for a landscaper. Not that I'm trying to get them to get away with anything, but
for negligence.
Yes, it's got to be
negligence. Has to be negligence.
Yes.
Not I salted. It didn't work very well because it was minus 19 and somebody still slipped and fell. That's not negligence.
Yeah, or you know, the contractor's on the hook because somebody's walking down a ramp in high heels. I've said that story 1,000 times. Walking down the ramp in high heels in the middle of an ice storm, carrying a suitcase.
Right.
What the heck?
Some of my boards have actually suggested that they allow or provide a bunch of salt. I'm sure you have salt bins.
Yeah, we have bins.
Owners, and it might aesthetically not look very nice, but have a small bucket right outside their front door.
We provide bags. So we talk to the boards ahead of time and say, okay, for your townhouse complexes, we do the salt.
Because you can't be there 24/7, right?
So 25 kilogram ice melt on everybody's porch. Everybody gets a delivery. The condo pays for that.
And use it at your discretion.
And use it at your discretion. And it's amazing how many times in the spring we do a spring walk and there's a bag not opened on somebody's porch or somebody's, steps.
I think last year we picked up 2 from somebody's porch in the fall.
Yeah.
From the 2 previous years.
2 previous years.
Personally, this is not personally. I'm not a big fan of using a lot of salt, right?
Right.
Neither am I.
Right?
Yeah,
so
neither are we.
Use it when you really absolutely need to.
Yeah.
We're
I'm not saying
our environment.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm not saying I suggest that to my boards. But me personally, I mean, because sometimes excessive salt it's not good at all.
No,
right?
it's definitely not. And
so to have that protection,
it's going to mitigate those liabilities for us, which then can, you're going to start to see salt usage come down. But the root of the problem is we're poisoning our environment with this.
Yeah.
And there's only so much fresh water out there, and there's millions upon millions upon millions of tons of salt being put down every single year, and it's not just on private property.
Folks, we live in Canada.
Yeah.
Right?
We do.
But we live in Canada. That is our climate.
We live in Ontario.
But people survive in northern Ontario where they use nothing but sand, right? And you'll see, I see it all. In a year where you don't get a lot of snow till January or February, people go crazy all year long. They're screaming and yelling. They don't know how to drive. They don't know how to walk.
Yeah.
But if you get snow beginning in November, all of a sudden everybody can drive by December 1st. They know how to, the winter goes much smoother when it's consistent.
I feel bad for, I do. I feel bad for the contractors. You guys must be walking on eggshells throughout the whole winter.
Yeah, Mike, we don't talk to Mike much in the winter.
No, seriously though.
It's a tense time.
It's tense, right?
It's
so
tense. The second, it's always the slip and falls. It's always that one. And it's like, it doesn't matter what we do, what logs we have, what we have done to mitigate for that ice. someone inevitably will walk through two cars, which we can't get in between, and guess what? Slip and fall. Or somebody will be wearing flip-flops and trip over a curb in a snowstorm. But we're always on the hook. It doesn't matter. And this is the part where I get really frustrated. Even when I was property management, I get really frustrated. When does the onus of responsibility become upon the person doing the walking?
Right.
Lady walking down the ramp in those high heels in the middle of an ice storm rolling a suitcase, you're responsible, not anybody else. You don't get to sue anybody. You don't get any money. Too bad for you. You have your own insurance. You call them. You call them.
Tell us how you really feel.
Irrigation and walking in high heels in the winter.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on landscaping and snow removal and hiring a contractor or choosing a client?
I'm more sorry, Randy.
Go ahead.
Choose somebody that's proactive. Choose somebody that's got the right policies and procedures in place to work with you to get you through what you need to get through.
5 points.
Go.
Check for certifications, ask for references, ensure they're responsive, make sure they can handle the work, and determine your expectations are in line with your budget.
Perfect. And that's what we're going to call it. Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Canadian Condominium Institute, the CCI podcast, presented by the Grand River Chapter. My name is Michelle Dyer, and thank you again. Tell your friends if you like it. If you don't, be quiet. Don't tell anybody. This podcast is available across all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube at CCI Grand River Chapter. Until next time.